Hey fellas. Given the trajectory this year has taken so far and how it's how things have been impacted, now is a good time for me for any to say, and now for something completely different. So I just finished watching the first three episodes of this year's version of Digimon Adventure. I'm not going to be using a colon on this video because it doesn't make any sense without a subtitle. So let's take an argument, differentiate from the original one. Let's just call it Digimon Adventure 2020. Hey, so here are my first impressions based on the first three episodes. It's Tokyo Digital Crisis, has War Game, and To the Digital World. Oh man, yeah. Hmm. So, one thing I will state, as there will be some minor spoilers, nothing too major if you decide to watch this. While many people were excited for this version of the series, I was one of the people who was approaching it with caution. And like, others have praised this series for being more willing to experiment with different character dynamics and story threads. I'm one of the people who is on the other side of the coin, coin showing how for everyone that has worked, such as my favorite season, Tamers, we've had ones that didn't pan out as well, like Frontier, here, which is one of the more divisive seasons that does have its fans nonetheless, man. Yes, man. And I understand from a purely aesthetic point of view why they did it, given how a lot has changed about how the world since 1999. Even though part of me he wonders if they just couldn't have just remastered the earlier ones for more modern on TVs and other displays. I understand why the full on reboot, or at least what we're pointing at be, because it doesn't follow everything note for note. In fact, one of the most things taking getting used to is how the story dynamic and characterization are completely different friends from before. Most of all, not everyone knows each other like they did in the original incarnation. In fact, it's actually a major divergence from both the original show and the movie version of the war game plotline. That's that's that Ty and Matt don't know each other. And that's he and Izzy just met, even though they've been apparently been neighbors for a while and classmates for a while. I'll be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have any major objections to that. To me, but I'm just mentioning it because, in general, doing any different change of characterization like that is often a crapshoot. That's why, even though I end up really liking what they did with certain elements of Discovery and Picard, I can at least understand why other people did not. So there's that. Rebooting any property, especially true in animation, like for every, say, TMNT 2012, we've got Thundercats Roar, so there's that. At the same time, however, the people in charge of it at least understand what makes the series work and what changes they do make they end up making logical sense. And it's like with how Izzy's computer looks less like a chunky PowerBook and more or kind of like an iPad Pro, who in this day and age, like how, and by that same proxy, he while Mimi's family was stated to be rich in the original, oh, they're outright tech magnates in this one, which I'm actually kind of interested to see how that plays out. Like, how do you do something like this where the tech is a lot more commonplace than it was in 1999. Because I will admit that's another thing that's kind of weird. It makes a lot less sense for Ty to be unfamiliar with this stuff of in 2020 than it does in 1999. Even that time period was a bit of a stretch. I mean, as someone who does remember enjoying the series in the past, again, I'm not gonna say that one's better than the other because to me that's another one of those Wars and Trek or DC and Marvel arguments that's they're different in style and tone, and they understand what makes each fictional universe work at that level. I mean, again, as I point out in my review of the movie, a Pokemon tends to be a faster paced, fantasy oriented, and spectacle focused, whereas Digimon is typically slower paced, character focused, and science fiction oriented, which still holds true in the newest incarnations that are currently in progress, but more on that another time. So I will say this, from a technical point of view, who the animation is as strong as ever. I always liked the artwork of the previous incarnations. Apart from some slight quality moments, like in the second episode, there's something's going on with Izzy's eyes, as well as how he's typing at his tablet's keyboard, where the animation is sharp, colorful, all and vibrant. There's a lot of big dynamic action scenes, especially with how they handle the actual our working storyline. Which is massively improved from the movie. It makes a lot more sense, hence that Ty and Matt are already trying to fight Diaboromon rather than just being drawn into it as, as of Matt visiting extended family because of what happened with his parents, and Ty being in a relationship drama with his Sora again. And it really is telling that most incarnations are trying to canonize the infamous distant finale of the second season. And that's the moment that keeps overshadowing it in my mind, but I get ahead of myself. And this also applies to how the show handles the character of Omnimon, as in the combined form of both Garurumon and Greymon's on its final stages, because of how it's definitely got that same vibe of being like a kind of digital Megazord of sorts, which makes some kind of sense given how this entire source material and this anime produced by the same company of Toei. But again, it makes way more sense than doing like a deep dive into your monitor or to handle this stuff. To be honestly frank, and with that being the case, if you have to change something for a new version of an existing IP, it should be a change that makes sense for the story you're trying to convey. Just ignore that. That's some birds outside. I, I, but that also makes a good segue. Hey, as long as these birds stop calling. So, as I was saying, hey, it's kind of like when with the Vulture and with Mysterio, rather than just keeping the Madman backstory they had in the comics, they made them into just working people that got screwed over, and which also expands the characterization in a way that makes sense for the new story and gives them a connection to Spider-Man himself, given how it makes them both two sides of the same coin. Which, if I'm being totally honest, makes a lot more sense than giving Electro dubstep powers. That I don't remember that from any other comic I've read, any other adaptation I've seen. But that is again Why I'm thinking reimagining might be a more accurate term to describe this anime than full on reboot, because to me, a reboot would mean you're just disregarding a previous continuity and you're making an entirely new one. And this one, to me, just offers a different interpretation and of the material. I mean, which makes sense. That's also why in the past I've cited characters like with Batman and Superman as examples of how each version can have a different approach to with a character. Which is why I I'm also waiting to reserve judgment on some versions until I actually see more of them. Um, but be that as it may, hey, even though my favorite character Joe only makes appearance about until there's 7 minutes left in the third episode, which just got leaked earlier. Her, I mean, her, I mean, Sora, uh, she and Ty do know each other. I mean, they're not dating just yet, but they're still good friends. And they've known each other all throughout their school life. I mean, and it is kind of interesting in how in this version, and 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 Kari staying behind not because she's sick, but because she has something else going on, which, to be fair, would have been bad. Granted, it would have been intentional on Toei's part, but if they had kept the original plot point, I mean, because of how it factors in, especially with something else going to be addressing later this week, just need some time to process it all. Especially since tomorrow, for obvious reasons, gonna try and take it easy aside from my online classes. Want to get this something sorted out with my book. Hook on Life, one of them. Um, I think you all know what's gonna be finally coming next. And my one of my sign off phrases will be the major indication because so oh long story short, hurts. It's not my favorite version of the story they've done, but I'm at least open to seeing where this goes. They didn't have to make it like with Cyberpunk 2077, where they have characters getting shot, uh, fried, or cut out with mantis blades. So I guess I'll see you all soon. Alola.